I think in our wildest dreams, we didn't think we'd be standing there getting ready to play for the Big Ten championship. It was an awesome experience.
I believe in Pennsylvania talent, dude. Like, I watched kids from, 30 minutes north of me, the McCarthy brothers. They went to Virginia, won national championships.
Yeah, that's right.
I've watched a lot of PA kids, do really well on the biggest stage of college baseball.
What we're finding is that kids do want to come to Penn State because of all the things that the university has to offer, and so you can get them to stay at home.
And the future's right now. We got a lot ahead just in the rest of this season, so it's right there for the taking.
What I like about this group is
So we're back with another very special guest, Coach Ryan Wheeler, Penn State Baseball Director, Player Development, and Alumni Relations. So, Coach, as two alumni here, I know I speak for Sal and the rest of the guys that we played with. We're super appreciative of what you're doing to involve us in the program, and certainly has led to us being able to run this podcast, which has been a blast so far. So it's a pleasure to have you on.
Well, thanks for having me, and I mean, from the engagement side, you're welcome, and I know we'll get into that, but just glad to have this opportunity to be with you guys, and love talking baseball and love talking about the program. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Coach, go into your background a little bit and your connection with Penn State baseball and just how everything circled back around for you.
Sure. Whether I want to admit it or not, it's been 30 years since, I graduated from here as, both a student and a player. And, obviously this place changed my life forever. And, a number of the experiences I had and opportunities here, certainly have set me up for life away from Penn State. But it was always a goal to try to get back here and, help the program in any way that I could. It just took me a little bit longer than expected, but eventually found my way back here. Very grateful to Coach Gambino, Pat Kraft, Vinny James for making this opportunity possible, and just excited to be back and be a part of the program again and help it achieve the level of success that we all hope it can achieve.
Absolutely. So where did your connection with Coach Gambino kind of start or stem from?
Yeah. So, after graduating from Penn State, played a couple years of minor league baseball and, never really had an intention to get into coaching. My degree from Penn State, I was hoping to someday design golf courses. But through taking a job in Williamsburg, Virginia, and knowing the coaching staff there, it led me into the world of coaching. And while at William and Mary, Coach Gambino was hired as part of the staff at Virginia Tech, and we just started to run into each other all over the place. While we were out recruiting in the state, and from there we just we kept in touch. And when he left and went back to Boston College, I certainly continued to run into him. And we just had that connection. I wouldn't say we were close friends and talked all the time, but certainly when we saw each other, we would take time to connect. And he is really good at just communicating. So along the way and over the years, if I had questions or something came up, and I reached out to him, he would always get back to me. And that led to us just connecting for this opportunity, and him asked me to come on board and help him out, and so here we are.
So before you came back, did you know how much Penn State had changed since you were here?
I mean, yes and no. So we have a connection in our family to Penn State. My wife is a Penn State graduate. Two of my brother-in-laws are Penn State graduates and also wrestled here. And my wife was actually also the manager for the wrestling team and received her varsity letter for that. So, and my one brother-in-law, he kind of never left and lived here in town. So, we would come back to visit, and you get a chance to see some of the changes on campus with how it's expanding and stuff like that. But certainly, now that I'm here and immersed in it, you see a lot more of the changes, and diving into the athletic department, there's still some people that were here 30 years ago that I recognize, but there's obviously been a number of changes too. So I would say I had a little bit of a feel. Tried to get back as often as I could. I think over the last 30 years, I probably was only to 3 or 4 or 5 football games, but that just was because my schedule with baseball in the fall didn't necessarily allow me time to get back. And then certainly in the spring, I was busy coaching somewhere else and wasn't able to get back here. But tried to stay connected as well as I could.
That's awesome. That fires me up. A little connection to the wrestling program too.
Yeah,
that's some serious culture over there.
They are unbelievable, and obviously what they've done speaks for itself. But the small amount that I've interacted with Cale, I mean, he's just a phenomenal person, and I think we could all learn some stuff from him. He's just amazing what they've done over there, and the wrestlers they're fantastic young men. Run into some of them and just talking to him, what he's done with their culture and stuff. It's just amazing.
Yeah, no, that's a special program for sure. And, like Christian said earlier, I appreciate and, I'm grateful for everything, you've done with the alumni and, ultimately getting us back connected to the program a little bit more. So, ultimately thank you for that. And, this stuff fires me up. So any ways that we can help you guys out, let us know.
Good.
Yeah.
And awesome.
I'm having some tech difficulties on my end. Audio's kind of in and out. So Sal, you may have to take over a little bit, but in kind of a transition to the 2025 team here, I mean, obviously a very exciting team. I mean, it's been easy to do a podcast on this team. There's a lot of good, a little bit of bad, which makes for good conversations. But we're very excited about this team, and you see the talent. It just keeps getting better, and these guys are developing. It's fun to watch players that have been in the program for a few years really improve year over year. And what's kind of your analysis of the season thus far, and kind of what you're projecting here, heading into the latter half of the season?
Sure. I mean, on the whole, look, it's been great, and it's been exciting. I mean, let's go back to last year, year one for us. Standing in Omaha, getting ready to play Nebraska for the Big Ten championship. That was not. It was something that was on our minds, and yes, that's what we were brought here to do, is to win championships and get into the NCAA tournament and see how far we could go. But typically in year one, when you're transitioning and learning so much about just how the university works, your team, so on and so forth.
Me too.
I think in our wildest dreams, we didn't think we'd be standing there getting ready to play for the Big Ten championship. It was an awesome experience. 15,000 fans in the stadium, and probably 14,950 of them were all wearing red, cheering for Nebraska. So we were in that tough environment, but it was really exciting for us and for the players, in the program. And, maybe in some small way we overachieved a little bit, even though, like I said, our goal is to obviously win ball games, win championships. So coming in here to year two, I know there was a big level of excitement. but we had a lot of new faces, and we were trying.
I think some of that run though there too is what really got some people excited about this program, and it kind of was that like eye-opening moment where it's like, yo, Penn State's, they're on the come up, they're getting better. Ultimately, whatever their new process is that's being put into place, like it is working.
Sure.
So ultimately, it was a trust builder. I think a lot of that
Sure.
run too.
Sure. No, that's good and I agree with you. For the longest time, you guys as well as myself heard the stuff like, well, Penn State can't be good at baseball because it's cold, and it's too hard to play baseball in the cold weather and the practice and so on and so forth. And then the other thing is, well, the kids from Pennsylvania, they don't want to come there then because it's cold. They want to go down south, so it's hard to keep the talent in state. And we would say we disagree with both of those things. The weather's cold and chilly, but you know what? It's bearable, and that's just an excuse. And what we're finding is that kids do want to come to Penn State because of all the things that the university has to offer. And so you can get them to stay at home. Some of the guys are going to leave, but it's a big state. It's a great baseball state with a lot of talent. And so, we're trying to keep some of those players, here at home. But in year 2 here, as we've, been trying to.
No, yeah, dude,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I believe in the Pennsylvania talent, dude. Like, since I was in high school, since before I was in high school, I've watched so many successful players. I've watched kids from 30 minutes north of me, the McCarthy brothers. They went to Virginia, won national championships.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I've watched a lot of PA kids, do really well on the biggest stage of college baseball. And
sure,
that's one thing that excited me about Paxton Kling coming back to town. Where the impact that I think he's made and is making currently to this program is massive. And even the Adam Ciceri, like, you guys are winning, recruiting right now, and I think as it continues to build, we're gonna keep winning the state and getting the better and better players.
And that's the goal. And we may get into some of the things that we've done, but I know that we've really made a conscious effort to build relationships with the travel coaches, the high school coaches, our alumni that are in coaching or in baseball, to make sure that Penn State is now an option, and let it be known that we're if you come to us with a guy and say, hey, I think I might have a player for you, we're going to check him out. We're going to try to get out there to see him play. We're going to try to do our due diligence and homework on their background, and we're not going to I don't want to say discredits, maybe not the right word, but we don't want to let any sort of tip or recommendation, go by the wayside. And honestly, with the relationship that we're trying to build, or the relationships we're trying to build, we want it to be a two-way street. And certainly if we can help, coaches in some way, whether it's, them calling up and saying, hey, how do you guys practice, plan, or handle bunt defenses? What are you guys doing? We try to help in that capacity as well. So, but those relationships, go a long way, and we've really made a conscious effort to try to build those back. I don't know that I answered the question about this year's team yet, because I got off on a tangent starting to talk about last year, but
that's all right. But ultimately, how you're building the relationships in the state, I think a lot of people are just respecting Penn State more and more. With that being said, and ultimately now, the offense is producing at a high rate. Like, it's a nationally recognized offense. I think our pitchers and stuff like that are continuing to get better and better. Friday night against USC, like Ryan DeSantos, he was he was the real deal, right? Like, it was a big start on Friday night. He dealt with adversity. He got through the adversity, and ultimately he puts together another quality start and gets a win. And, like, to me, I don't know if his stuff is overwhelming, but, like, I think the profiles of his pitches are probably elite, and the way that he goes after guys and attacks the zone and his locations in the zone, is also elite, where, I'm a big fan of him, and, I've been talking about him on this podcast for a little while now.
Right.
And then, but I lost you a little bit there when you were talking about the relationships with the state and stuff like that. But ultimately, I know some travel coaches around the area and that, and, I've heard only good things about Penn State. And, locally in my area, there's been, some kids' names in that I've relayed out there. And I've seen Penn State in the Wyoming Valley Conference, more in the last 2 years, than I have in the last 10 years, so right. I think it is big that you guys are kind of branching out through the state more and more, because there is a lot of talent, right. And there's a lot of kids, who are tough, and, that I personally believe in to win. And I think we're seeing some of that too at Penn State right now. But, with all that being said, like, my biggest thing for you is kind of like, on the alumni side of it, like, ultimately, what kind of, events do you guys have that you have together? Ultimately, like the golf tournament last year, I know that was a big fundraiser, but other types of fundraisers, other types of events, other types of, get-togethers, or way to connect with, the alumni and, ultimately whoever else that we need to connect with to continue to build this program.
Sure. First of all, the engagement and the outreach has been tremendous, and that's been, a fun part of the job is connecting with guys from different eras. Certainly, a number of the guys that I played with now feel like they're engaged with the program again. But it's been great to connect with, everybody from all different eras. And, the more outreach we're doing, the more things we're doing, the engagement is going to continue to grow. So, excited about that. But, sort of getting in here last year and wrapping my hands around things. Year two, we've tried to take things a step further, certainly more here in the spring. And then even looking ahead to next year, some things are on the books. But, for example, we're going to have an Alumni Day here on May 3rd. We're going to honor the 2000 team. It's been 25 years since they had an appearance in the Super Regional. And, we're going to bring them back and honor them. In fact, I've just sent out a form to everyone, kind of trying to get a head count so I know how many people are showing up. And the response has been incredible so far. I mean, I sent it out the other day. I got 50 people already that responded that said they're coming. With a number of guests with them. So I hope that the turnout is really good on that day, and certainly we're excited to honor them.
Oh yeah. Anytime you give Penn State people a reason to come back to Penn State, they're coming.
I know.
They are.
And that's that's what we're trying to do is at various times do things here to give them a reason to come back. But after the ball game, then we're going to do a reception down at the tavern. Where we hope everybody will be able to join us, at post-ball game for just a get-together there away from the field. And, coaches are going to come down and spend some time, talking with everyone. On May 16th, we are playing the game down in Harrisburg and, trying to been working with the Alumni Association down there to try to get not just former baseball players, but just Penn State alums out to the game. We're going to do some stuff with...
Where are we playing in Harrisburg?
At Citi Field, where the Harrisburg Senators play. So
nice.
It's
nice.
It's a game against, our last series of the year is our bye weekend in the Big Ten Conference schedule. And so we were able to find Xavier had a bye weekend as well. And so we're going to play, it's actually a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series because it leads right into the Big Ten tournament. So Thursday, we're going to play here. Friday, down at City Island Field in Harrisburg, and then we'll come back here Saturday to finish up the series. But have some exciting stuff there that we're trying to plan and organize, not only with the Senators, with Happy Valley United as well. And then looking ahead to the fall, I mean, we've got our golf tournament date picked out. We're going to try something a little bit different here with a couple different things. One is we're going to be calling it Dinner on the Diamond, where it's going to be a semi-formal type event, probably trying to get a keynote speaker for that, but actually having dinner here at the field in the fall when it's 70 degrees. We've got a great view of the mountain. I mean, the stadium is just awesome, and so taking advantage of that as a fundraising type event, we're going to do that. And then we're partnering with this new company called Slugball, which is a company that it's almost like a version of Topgolf for baseball, where there's going to be some hitting competitions on the field. We're going to try to put teams of alumni together. It doesn't have to be alumni, but I know the alums, I get asked all the time about taking BP on the field. So it's going to be a chance for them to come back, get on the field, swing the bat a little bit, see if they can run it out of here like Paxton Kling does or most of our lineup. So, we got that. We'll pick a football game and have a tailgate event. I got to definitely start swinging in the cage a little bit more to get ready for that. I know Christian's probably been prepping down there in Georgia for the golf tournament now for months, but I'm still not worried. I'm still not worried about that.
Yeah, Coach, Are you evaluating the golf courses with your background in golf architecture?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to look at them a little bit differently than everybody else, but I didn't choose to make that my career path. So, not completely. I will say, I've got to get to the Masters at some point in my life. I've got to get there because it looks absolutely stunning.
That was awesome, dude. The Masters is awesome.
Oh, I mean, the finish this year was great, but I'm just looking at, there's not a blade of grass out of place. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So I got to get there at some point.
I'll tell you, I went in 2023. It was 45 degrees and raining, and it was the best day of my life.
I'll tell you what, though, our grounds crew at Penn State does a pretty good job there, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they're
the grounds crew at Penn State is serious.
They're great. And, the guys that we have here, at the field, do an amazing job. We were talking earlier before we started recording, just the weather's been tough. Winter just does not want to give up its grip right now. But as I'm sitting here, looking out at the field, I mean, it's as green as it can be, and whatever the heck they're doing, they're doing a great job to make it look great.
They do unbelievable out there. That mound was always my favorite mound to throw off too. But I knew Christian was having some audio difficulties there, so I wanted you to get into that alumni relationships and ultimately all of that stuff. But now that he's back, let's have a little bit of a conversation about the USC series and ultimately. Last week, I kind of mentioned to Christian, like I was, very interested in seeing like how disciplined and how structured, ultimately a California team is, and then ultimately what does that look like coming into the Big Ten and competing against them? Like what adjustments and different things do you think you need to make going forward or could have made? Ultimately just kind of your perspective on it all.
Sure. I mean, first of all, it was a really good series, and like you guys, I mean, we were curious as well. We don't typically play a lot of West Coast teams. We may run across them early in the season in some tournaments and things like that we're in, but now that they're in conference, it makes things a little bit different in how we're going to see them on a more yearly basis. I think the best way to describe them was they were very professional in everything that they did. Of course, it was a little bit chilly here, a lot different than the weather they're having out there. you didn't know if it bothered them or not when they walked into the ballpark. I don't think they were crazy about it. And I think, Friday night, when literally there was so much cloud cover and fog, you couldn't see Mount Nittany, they're probably saying to themselves, where the heck are we right now? But they came in and they went about their business in a very professional manner. Clearly their roster is built with a lot of California players, and because of the weather difference, just their skill set was a little bit more polished than maybe the normal Big Ten school, or even us. Very just, if you know baseball and you're watching guys play catch and you're watching how their bodies move. For us, it was, you could just tell that they've played a lot of baseball in their lives, and they were just really, really polished with how they went about things. I think they're extremely well coached. I believe Coach Stankiewicz is in his third year there, so he's kind of 1 year ahead of where their program is trying to go than where we're at. But very, very well coached. Fundamentally, I thought they just did things, they did the little things really well. And then, when it actually came down to the game, I think both of us had game plans, or I know both of us had game plans going in, and they just executed theirs a little bit better. Both on the mound and at the plate. And, both teams tried to make adjustments. Once we played each other after that Friday night ball game, I felt like both went back and said, okay, we got to make some adjustments, and they just did them a little bit better than we did. But I don't think we're that far away, and I think it was a really good series. For us, we just we learned that we're maybe just not quite there. Like we were talking earlier about where's this team at, and certainly we've come a long way from the fall and molding everything together. But we still have room for improvement, and today we're going to get back to some of the basics and the fundamentals, and making sure that we haven't forgotten those things. Because
I agree, and that's kind of what I saw too. I watched all three games. We got outplayed, but we didn't get outplayed by that much. Ultimately,
right.
To me, they pitched a little bit better than us, and realistically, they just manufactured runs a little bit better.
Yeah.
I don't think we had our normal havoc on the bases and creating that other ultimately stressor for their pitchers and stuff, where I thought their pitchers did a good job of executing ultimately the fundamentals, right? Fastballs down and away, off speed off of that, and then climb the ladder every now and then. So
we did do it on Friday night a little bit.
A lot of that similar stuff.
Friday night we did, we created enough pressure on the bases that their top reliever came in the ball game, and he felt uncomfortable. I've been coaching for close to 30 years now. I don't know that I've seen a pickoff to third base more than twice in all that time, and they tried to pick off at third base 3 times because they were so concerned with what we were doing on the bases and stuff like that. And our players and our third base coach.
And I think that's big for postseason play. Just learning different styles of baseball from different parts of the country. That has to be massive, and ultimately building a team and building a foundation to win when you're playing different types of opponents. Because, you hear about that your whole life. California, for how big the state is, at least college baseball, they're doing small things, bunting, stealing, hit and runs. And then just the pitchability is through the roof. And, I was telling you before we started the podcast, Ryan DeSantos, he was a dude on Friday night where, he came out, he was attacking hitters. He got into a little bit of a mess there, and he battled out of that adversity. And, he put it together, another quality start and another win. And ultimately he's kind of my pitcher of the week. I was really excited by his outing, and just kind of knowing that we have a frontline guy that can go out there and beat a lot of teams, on a Friday.
Yeah, he can compete with anybody in the country. I think you said it earlier, his stuff may not look elite, because certainly their starter, he was really good as well, left-hander, and was competing and executing at the same level, but they look different to the eye and stuff. But Ryan, there's just something about him where he misses barrels. He misses barrels, and he's able to execute in tough spots. When he needs to make a pitch, he usually makes a pitch.
Yeah, no, and from watching him, I didn't mean elite by, he doesn't throw 94, 95, right? But the ride on his fastball is elite. Yes. Ultimately the break on, he throws probably a sweeper and a curveball, I'm guessing. And, one's a little bit bigger, but he still has at least 2 or 3 elite pitches. And then, you can argue plus command and plus competitor. So ultimately that stuff makes everything else play up, and that's why I like him a lot on the mound. I do. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look, we're fortunate to have him here, and he's done a great job for us, and his best days are probably still ahead of him. I think if you talk to him, he'd still want to make that change up an elite pitch for him. He's getting better with it. Coach Joust has done a really good job of working with all of our guys. But, the change up is good, but I still think there's room for it to improve. And, God, if he can get that along with the breaking balls that he throws, and then, the carrier ride on his fastball, like you said, he's got a chance to maybe pitch in the big league someday. So, no, yeah, for sure. I mean, he'll have guys rolling their hands over before the ball even gets to them. Seriously, guys who have that little hop to their heater, and then they could, throw a changeup with some deception. It goes a long way. And I've seen 4 or 5 guys that I've played with alone that they didn't necessarily have plus velo or even average velo, but they had a plus changeup, and it was an outlier pitch, and they abused it, and they've went a long way with it.
Yeah.
How about this? We haven't even said this. Justin Hagenman debuted today in the big leagues.
We just, Paul Marbo, who was our sports information person, he just came to the office and said that he's starting today in the big leagues. So they're getting ready they're putting a graphic together, trying to get it out on social media. And certainly,
let's go, dude. This has got to be the first Penn State guy in the big leagues in how long?
He said since 2005. 2005. And I'm going to guess that was Mr. Nate Bump. That was the last one that pitched in the big leagues. So, it's an exciting day.
Me and Christian, we both lived with Justin. 132 Patty. We were in there.
Okay.
It's a huge I'm pretty
day.
Pumped up for him. I was fired up to see that yesterday, and I mean, dude, that's a kid who's ultimately trusted his process all the way through, and ultra competitive. Ultimately always had feel for his stuff, and he's just trusted his process and continued to get better, and I'm happy for him. That's awesome for him. I'm proud to say I know him.
Yeah. No, it's awesome, and we're excited for him. I don't know him personally yet, but hope that I think he's been pretty busy with his process of trying to get to the big leagues. That we haven't connected yet, but we will in time. But regardless, we're rooting for him, and certainly we'll be pulling for him today.
Yeah, no, he might be a call I might make. I might find out one of his off days, and he might have to spend an hour with me.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. So,
but I'm pumped up. I'm gonna have it on at the facility. I'm fired up about it. I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah.
What do we got coming up? We got Purdue this weekend.
So, Yeah, we've got Purdue coming in, and just diving into Purdue now. So I don't have a ton of particulars other than they overall they've got a good record. They seem to be scuffling a little bit in league play, but I'm sure they're going to have some talented players over there, and they're gonna come in and they're going to give us all we can for a run for our money. So we'll see. We just for us we're not. It's not necessarily who we're playing. We've got a set of standards that we're trying to uphold, and we're worried about what we're doing. And usually at the end of the game or whatever, you need to talk about the opposing team and what they did, but then it's more about how did we execute what we were trying to do. And did we play defense? Did we throw strikes? Did we execute situational hitting? A lot of those little things are what go into it. So the USC series, I think it didn't put us into a spin or anything like that, but we win Friday night. We were hoping to get one more here at home against them, and it didn't work out. So now we've got to just get back to what we do, and I think if we do, then we'll have a good weekend against Purdue this coming weekend. And then looking ahead, then we got to play another West Coast school. We got to go out to UCLA the following weekend, which
UCLA, that's going to be a pretty cool trip.
Yeah. I mean,
but ultimately with what you said there, and just getting back to the small things, like it really is that simple. Where I think your guys, they've had success. We've been seeing growth and stuff on the mound, and right now it's the middle of the year. Like you look at every single conference standings, everybody's right in the middle. Okay, there's one or two teams at the top, there's a team at the bottom, but everybody else is right there in the middle, and ultimately everything's there for the taking still. Where ultimately just being able to kind of trust that culture and ultimately everything that Coach Gambino and the rest of the staff is bringing to our program, and being able to execute a little bit more, slightly higher.
I mean, look at the run we made last year. We were, and I think one of the greatest things that he did last year was he never used the words if or when as he started talking to the team down the stretch. It was, this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to play out, and then we're going to do this next. And, and then when that happens, we're going to do this next. And it wasn't, well, if we win this game or maybe, there was no hesitation. And the guys were like, okay, that's what we're just supposed to go sweep Maryland on the road to get into the tournament. Okay, that's what we're just going to do. And we went and did it. And then when we go to Omaha, this is what's going to happen. And okay, we'll just roll right through it, and almost pulled it off. I mean, really, we were 6 outs away from winning the Big Ten championship. So my point in that is, with this group here, he has told them we've not played our best baseball yet, and we just need to continue to grow and to work and stay focused on what we're trying to do and keep getting better. And then try to pull it together.
Sure. And that ultimately keeps you. It keeps you grounded as a team. You know what I mean? It keeps you where your feet are, and it keeps you hungry and never really satisfied. Ultimately, where right now, like it's pitches or swings away from having 10 wins in the Big Ten or 12, 13 wins in the Big Ten already. Where like when we were playing, it looked like the number to get into the Big Ten tournament was like 12 wins or so. Where I was looking at the rest of our schedule, like there's no reason we can't have 15, 16 wins, and realistically, if you're at 13 or 14, you probably have your spot in the tournament with a lot of guys getting healthier and healthier, a lot of guys getting more extended, and eventually it's going to start to warm up where ultimately these bats, they're going to be seasoned hitters now where they had to deal with adversity. They had to deal with the cold. They had to ultimately take a little bit more time to process, their own personal routine before they got in the box. And now, we're a little looser, and our bat speed's a little bit more. And I'm confident that we're going to be able to do some damage, ultimately down the stretch. And I'm excited. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan. And we started off the season in Puerto Rico where it was 82, 83 degrees, and we joked and said, well, we're probably not going to see this for quite some time till the end of the season. But I didn't know that winter was going to hold on as long as it has here. And I think we've played one of the coldest Big Ten schedules. We had to go on the road to Northwestern in week 2. We were up at Michigan, and we played at Minnesota, 3 places that, are typically colder than we are here. But, regardless, what I like about this group is these kids work. They love coming to the ballpark, and they want to get better. They're excited to work with the coaches, and they enjoy talking baseball. And, some of the stuff that's going on here at the ballpark, the renovations, the new locker room is just amazing. And so, they're hanging out there a lot more. And,
I got to see a video and some pictures of the new locker room, and I was very highly impressed. Yeah. That's a pretty special room, ultimately where those guys could just kind of hang out, deload, and be themselves a little bit. That room is awesome.
Yeah, and special. Look, we talked about pulling this team together. That locker room is a place where you guys kind of come together. There's just so many. I'm sure you guys have stories from back in the day. I know I do. Through no fault of anyone's, like we just got into that locker room a month ago. We had a space obviously to change and to keep our stuff, but it was just under construction. It was very fragmented. There wasn't a lot of places to hang out or sit, and we did the best we can, and it's not an excuse, but that space has been great and is only going to make things better now moving forward. So just there's a lot of good things going on here. And look, when people come back, we want to show everybody that space. So certainly, if you're in town or anybody else is here, we'll take you through and give you the tour.
No, yeah, that's awesome. You could just see a lot more as being ultimately, put into the program, and that's exciting. Anytime that more and more is being put into a program, and ultimately that winning mentality is behind it. There's something to be excited about, and when it's Penn State, it's even more reasons to be excited about it, because all the facilities, the education, ultimately the blue collar state that we do come from, and ultimately being able to build that state of Pennsylvania, I think we can ultimately compete on the highest level in this game.
I know the Dollar Dog Nights, the promotion and marketing that they've done.
The attendance is way up too. I've never seen it so many fans in the stadium. Even if it is because of the Dollar Dogs, but like the doubles and home runs do it for me too.
Right, but Coach Gambino and I have said, look, this is amazing, this is awesome, but can you imagine what it's going to be like when we host a regional here? Like, what's the crowd's going to be like, and the excitement and the energy?
Just the tailgates.
And that's exciting for us because, look, people have been coming out. I mean, I think, I don't think, Friday and Saturday here against USC, it may have been 42 degrees. It was misty, damp, and we've got 1,800 people coming out to watch us play. And then when the temperatures have been good, at least from last year, we're getting 3,000 people, close to 4,000 people. And then for one of the Dollar Dog Nights last year, we had 5,200 people here. So that is obviously
great. I mean, if there were 5,000 people there for a regional game, I don't know, dude. I watched the whiteout games. I watched the Philadelphia Phillies in October, and I know what fans can do to impact the game. Where, can you imagine you had that many people there, just rooting on your team? How the energy, the level of play that ultimately takes the team up to, you're just going to elevate on that stage. And, I think that would be awesome. And I think we will see that in the near future.
No, we are going to get there. And, we're looking forward to that day. And, one of the things earlier, when we were talking about Pennsylvania baseball, I said to Coach Gambino, I said, because he asks, him not being a Penn Stater, he has embraced the culture and just what we have as a Penn State community. He's all in. He's pushed his chips all in. But he'll ask me, how are we doing? How, what do people think? And I said, look, I think we're doing great. But I said, we'll know we've made it when we've got 7 and 8 year olds, running around in little leagues saying that they want to grow up someday to play baseball at Penn State. Then we'll know we've gotten to the baseball community as a whole and reach them when there's young kids in some small town in Pennsylvania saying, I want to go to Penn State to play baseball.
I completely agree. And I own the facility here. I work with kids all the time. I see a lot of Penn State shirts come through the door.
Sure.
Whether it's football, wrestling, baseball, all the just Penn State. As a symbol itself, it's ultimately a massive, it's a massive university, and I argue it's the best university in the state. When it comes to producing successful, human beings and individuals, even from the educational side of it and the academic side of it, ultimately Penn State's elite. So. Yes. It's firing me up now that our baseball program is making that climb to be an elite, because that's what it's really about. It's pushing the standard. It's developing that culture of excellence. And, I think Coach Gambino is the right man for the job. And I think he's doing an incredible job with it.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Thanks. And I know, I agree with you. And like doing this podcast, I appreciate that as well, because this is going to reach so many more people. I can get on the phone and talk to people as much as I want, but that takes a lot of time. This is going to be a platform that hopefully gives people a little bit more insight into the program with some of the different interviews and things that you're doing with it and bringing people on. But, to take time, I know you guys have other things that you're doing. And so for you all to take time to be working on this and put it together, there's a lot more that goes into it than just, this 45 minutes or hour that we're talking. So I appreciate that. And as we've said to other alums, continue to spread the word. There's guys that have not heard from the program or have not reached out. We'll hear, their teammates, I know my teammate, he'd love to learn more about the program. Well, give me give me information, tell him about the podcast, all these different things, because that's the way that we can build the relationships and get people back here and engaged again.
Yeah, for sure.
So
and that's,
guys.
Ultimately what we're trying to focus on doing, is ultimately sending this out to, our teammates, having them send it out to ultimately, people they're connected with. And ultimately that trail just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Because I know any alumni, anybody who is connected to Penn State University, knows that Penn State baseball could win and, will win. So, it's pretty exciting to be a part of that. And, ultimately, I think Christian's telling me to shut this thing down. So if you have any final words, final thoughts, anything like that, fire it out there. But, I appreciate you hopping on this a ton. And, ultimately, thank you for everything.
Yeah, no, whatever you guys need. I think
Christian, you got anything
thing.
or you dead?
Sorry, technical difficulties. We're building character over here. I haven't dealt with this adversity yet, so everything's
why is the baseball world more adequate than whatever you're doing? Real estate, insurance.
No, guys, this was great. I wish I could have contributed, but this is awesome. This is the type of information that we want to hear about the program, and we can't say it enough, kind of how proud we are to be Penn State baseball alums. Good. And just also how excited we are about the future.
Good.
So, in the futures right now, we got a lot ahead just in the rest of this season. So it's right there for the taking. I think from my perspective, just the position we're in excites me. Like, it's not like we're just cruising into the Big Ten tournament. We're really gonna. There's a lot of work left to be done, so they're gonna have to bear down and go get it. And I think that's what really sets up a pretty exciting run. Just this team getting hot at the right time. So we're pumped up.
Cool, great.
Yeah, no, but all right,
well,
fellas.
thanks again.
Good talking to you.
Thank you, Coach.
Have a great day and good luck this weekend.
All right, thanks.